Hi everyone, Leani Lopez here with another episode of I Got Nothing, a podcast for exhausted writers. I am joined by a fellow exhausted writer. Please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, thanks Leani. My name is Kate Summers and I write historical fiction and I'm just excited to be here.
And we are friends on Instagram, so it's great to actually talk with you.
Yeah, it is.
Pseudo face-to-face.
For sure, it's very exciting.
And you've been writing for a really long time. I think as long as I've been writing.
Yeah, I've been writing since, I was probably in my pre-teens. I didn't really start pursuing novel writing until 5 years ago, but yeah, I've always loved to write and knew I would write a novel someday, but yeah, it's just in the last little while that I put together a novel.
It's been so interesting talking with other authors about their writing journey because I feel like there's like two camps. There's the a couple years ago, I just was like, let me give this a try. And then there's I have been writing since I picked up a pencil. There's no in between.
Interesting. That is very interesting. Yeah, that would be true for me. Since I picked up a pencil, I've always loved writing. I've wrote short stories for my family when I was a teen and preteen to make them laugh. I just love to make my family laugh. And yeah, I can't imagine having not been a writer. But props to those who in the last, little while were like, I'm going to write and just jumped into it because anyone can.
Yes, anyone can. And it is daunting, but you have to have nerves of steel to do it anyways.
Yeah, that's so valid because especially if you're sharing your work, if it was something that you kept to yourself, it was private just for you, that's great too. But sharing your work is you're really bearing your soul to people, and people you don't know, people you've never met, and some people will give you great feedback and that's really encouraging, and you won't hear from a lot of other people and you're like, hey, did that hit totally wrong, or was it good, or what's going on here? And then sometimes you get reviews that you're like, oh, okay, I guess that didn't really hit like I wanted it to, or didn't fit you or whatever. I just got my first 1-star review on Goodreads and I shouldn't have read it, but I read it and anyways, I didn't cry, wanted to, but anyways, it's, your book isn't for everyone. And that's what people say. You're not writing your book for everyone, and you got to kind of let those roll off your back. So
yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head that you're not writing for everyone. Well, first off, congrats on your first 1-star. Welcome to the club.
Well, thank you.
I got a 1-star on my audio drama very shortly after the first episode.
Yeah.
Went up, and of course you get that stomach sinking feeling.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And then I read it, and then I laughed because it just was not very helpful. There was no actual feedback in there.
Yeah.
And so when I went to the Discord server with other podcast producers and told them, they did the same thing. They're like, welcome, congratulations.
It's I guess it's a feat. So there.
You can just check it off your list. Perfect. But as you were saying, sometimes your story or your book or whatever is just not for everyone. Mm-hmm. I remember hearing from someone when they were trying to give writing advice to another person, and they were like, well, don't say that because you're going to alienate your readers. People are going to be like, well, I like that thing. And I was just like, that's not good writing advice. Because you should be writing to tell the story you want to tell.
Yep.
You shouldn't be censoring yourself because you might make somebody annoyed to a degree. There is a degree with all of these things.
Sure.
But your writing first and foremost should be for you.
Yeah, I agree. And when I wrote this novel, like I knew I wanted to put a lot of myself into it. And there's healing in that. I mean, there's some pain in it too, but it's a good thing to do for yourself. So, yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah, and what you just said, healing. There is healing, I know, for me in writing. And sometimes it's not even conscious. Sometimes you're just like writing a scene and then it hits a little too close to home and you're like, oh, I guess I didn't process that like I thought I had. Like, it's
Right,
just,
exactly. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah, I love encouraging people to write because I've come across many people just by doing events and, sharing that I'm a writer and kind of showing them my books. And there are so many people who are like, oh, I've always wanted to write a book,
Hmm.
but I'm too scared to.
Yeah.
Or I feel like it's done already, or it's too daunting. And all of those are valid. But I always encourage them to be like, well, just write it down just for yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you've been thinking about it for a long time, chances are it's not going to go away.
Yeah.
If it hasn't gone away yet, if the idea is still in your mind, I feel like the only way it's going to go away is if you write it down.
Yeah. Even like you said, even if it's just for yourself.
Yeah. So, what was it like? Because you said you knew you wanted to write books, or at least a book. What was it like when you finally finished that first book?
It was terrifying in many ways. And when I finished like the first draft of my novel, I mean, that was a huge accomplishment. And I felt like I felt like I had such great momentum, and I was like, okay, now I got to get this, go through several more drafts, revise, rewrite, and get it to an editor, get it published. Like I was really gung ho to do that because I wrote the first draft all in just I think under a year, pretty much, except that I was missing maybe a couple of scenes. But then life happened. Like I had two kids and I moved three times, and it was just like the rest of the work that needed to be done on the novel didn't get done as fast as I wanted it to. And so it's only, like it was 5 years after I started writing it that I actually published it. And like the actual publishing of it, getting it out into the world, like there's so many different stages. Like there's, like I said, there's getting your first draft done, there's sending it to your editor, there's getting it proofread. But when you get to that milestone of publishing it, or having it published by a publishing house. I self-published through my, like I have a publishing company. So I published through that. And it was, yeah, terrifying because now it's out there for anyone and everyone. And I mean, exciting too, of course. And I mean, I did a launch party, on the release day, which was very successful, had lots of people come out, which was just so encouraging. And yeah, so it felt terrifying, but also like an incredible accomplishment.
And it is,
Yeah.
especially when life happens.
Yeah.
There have been so many times where I've been making progress on my current novel,
Hmm.
and then life happened.
Yeah.
And then it got pushed aside, and then it got pushed aside, and I would take it back out, and I would rework a little bit more, and then it got pushed aside again.
Yeah.
I have been working on the idea of it since 2016, so almost 10 years now.
Okay. Yeah.
And I finally finished the first full draft in December.
Yeah. That's great.
Like, that's how long it took because life just kept happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally fair. When I first took a novel writing course, that was back in 2020, and there were people in my group that they published, I don't know, like I think 2 years after, and then someone published the next year, and then the next year. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Like you feel almost like I did. I felt the pressure of that. And
Yes.
I was like, oh my gosh, like I have to finish this novel. But also these other people, they were older. I know they didn't have, they had older kids, but like, I had a newborn baby and then I had another kid, and it's just like finding time to write was so difficult. And I just was like, I can't compare myself to these people because they're in completely different, stages of life. And, they've carved out time. They've been able to, and I've worked on it when I can and done what I could, but I had to also let the novel breathe. I think if I hadn't, let it take the time that it took me, that it wouldn't be the product that it is. Not to say that it wouldn't have been good, but I'm proud of the final product. And maybe it wouldn't have been the same, I guess, if I had pushed it.
I agree with you on that on so many levels, because I think that is the same thing with my novel, with Phoenix's Call, because the original idea of it was so vastly different from what it's turned into. But I feel like what it's turned into is a much deeper story that I did not have the maturity to handle back then.
Yeah. That's great because that means it's developing with you, and like that's great.
Yeah, I had a friend read the first couple of chapters after I had decided to like completely rehaul the manuscript because it had been so long.
Hmm.
And she had read my two other books, which
Yeah.
had also been written several years before I published them. So
Okay.
it's been a while since I've published my own book.
Hmm.
I've done ghostwriting and things like that. So she has a reference. She's read those books, and then she read this one, and she was like, "Oh, I feel like I'm reading poetry."
Oh,
And
okay.
I like started crying
Oh,
because I had never been given that compliment before,
sure.
but I also had been feeling like it was some of my best writing, and it had developed while I had been developing my own writing with ghostwriting, because that had been its own thing for a while. I had been doing
Hmm.
that exclusively, but I actually got a lot of feedback from my client that actually helped me grow as a writer.
Right.
So I kind of merged the two together, and so I almost feel like this book, when it's going to be released, is more like a relaunch of my book writing
Yeah.
career in a way, because it's just completely different.
Right. No, that's very cool.
So when you're getting ready to write, I know as moms we have to carve out we have to carve out time
Yeah.
wherever we can. But do you have writing rituals that you do to get ready to work?
I think that I have in the past. I'm not as great with it now. Right now I'm kind of in preliminary stages. I'm writing my second novel for, like, it's a duology. And so I'm writing the second novel in it. I'm just kind of in preliminary stages. I'm just kind of thinking through my characters and thinking through the world of my story. I'm using the 90-day novel by Alan Watt to kind of help me get a good sense of what my story is going to be before just kind of jumping in and writing, which is vastly different from how I approached writing my first novel, The Bristol Scholar. But yeah, like now it's kind of just trying to find the time to just sit down and do it uninterrupted. Like, next to impossible. Like, what I would love, I need to like get out of the house because it's so hard. It's so hard to get things done when I'm at home. And yeah, and I mean, I own another business and I work part time somewhere else. So like my life is not, structured to just be a writer. I'm a mom too. Yeah, so when I'm actually working at my computer writing, I like to use Pomodoro timer. So there's a website too that you can use, and basically it's set up so that you've got a certain amount of time that you're like, okay, I'm dedicating this time to, I'm just going to work, 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 work. For this, for me, it's a 45-minute period. Then you take
Mhm.
a 5-minute break, and then 45 minutes again, take a 5-minute break, 45 minutes, and then a 15-minute break. And so I don't know, there's some kind of science behind it, but
Oh
it's a
yeah.
way, yeah, it's a way of of working so that you get the most efficient or whatever. I don't think the actual time is 45 minutes, but I changed it to that because I felt like the timer would go off and I'd be like, I'm in the middle of this, I got to keep going. Yeah, I find that very helpful. And I also love that it gives me like a record of how much time I've spent writing too. And so I like to record that because I find it encouraging. Like I recorded in my bullet journal. And I find that very encouraging. Other than that, it's just kind of if I have it planned in the week that, okay, this is when I'm going to write, this is when I'm going to write, it helps me to be in that headspace already. Whereas if like I just had a spontaneous moment of, oh, 30 minutes, kids are sleeping, it's harder for me to get in that headspace and
Yeah.
to, just jump in and right. But that being said, if I do have a 30-minute period, and this is very much the case when I was trying to finish the Bristol Scholar, my son was born in, he was, don't even remember when he was born. He's almost a year and a half. So he was very young when I was finished trying to like push towards finishing my book. And so every time he took a nap, I went to my computer and I did writing. And at nighttime when the kids were in bed, I wrote. And I guess part of how I tried to get myself ready to write is I would just reread something I had written, the previous day or something like that. Do a little bit of editing to get
Mhm.
myself back into the story, get myself back into that world that I'd created. And then usually from there, it would flow. I'd be like, okay, I know where I'm going. I
Yeah.
know what I'm supposed to be, what I'm doing next. And so even if I felt like, okay, I've got no creativity today, there's no way I can even think about working on the next scene. I'm like, I can do something. I can do
Yeah.
something that will help push this forward. And so I go back to a scene, I reread it and make some little edits. And then usually from there, I get my inspiration and I'm able to kind of keep going. Sometimes work on a new scene, sometimes not. Sometimes I would just edit. Yeah, so yeah, in terms of writing rituals, it's varied for me throughout my life because of the different things have happened, just having kids and it's mostly having kids.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
right now it's a little bit different because my kids, they do go to daycare in the mornings, and so I can structure some time in, which is great. But I have another business which tends to take up more time than I would like it to, and I wish I could write full time, but I can't.
As someone who does write full time, there are still not enough hours in
Gotcha.
the
Yeah, yeah.
day. Because I write my own stuff and then I ghostwrite and I have a podcast
Right.
and my audio drama. So it's like depending on my mood is what medium I work on that
Right.
day.
No, that's totally fair. And that's also like that must like kind of divide your attention a lot too.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely does. That's actually why I had to, after finally reworking my novel, I actually had to put it aside for the last 2 years because I was editing my audio drama and I could not split my
Yeah.
focus. There was just too much going on. It was a huge task, and also it just made me
Hmm.
overstimulated because I had to constantly be listening to audio
Right.
and I would have to edit and I would have to like rewind and listen again and I just couldn't split my focus like that.
Makes
But
sense.
I think your point about your rituals changing, I know for me, I didn't realize that that happened because the one way had worked so well for so
Hmm.
long. So when that way didn't work anymore, I'm like, I'm broken. Like my writer brain is broken. It's I can't
Yeah,
write.
exactly.
And I mean, when I released my first book, my son was very young. He was a baby. He is 13 now.
Wow.
But for several years, I had to homeschool him because he's on the spectrum and he just needed my one on one attention.
Yep.
So I left my job to write full time. and then ended up having to homeschool.
Okay, yeah.
So it wasn't until 2 years ago that I was actually home writing full time.
Yeah.
Because I had to take him to his therapies, I had to take him to appointments,
Yep.
and I would have a very minimal time to write. So my therapist actually had to work with me to slow down.
Yeah.
Because I was in that fast pace of like, okay, I have time, I gotta do this now,
Oh, I feel that.
for so long that I was like stressing myself out in a low key environment.
Yeah.
And so she's like, all right, we got to work on that.
Yeah.
And I mean, even I would be able to write on my phone. Like I used to write fan fiction on my phone. I didn't even type on a computer.
Oh, wow.
But I have tendon issues in my thumbs and wrists because of that. So I can't do that anymore.
Right. Oh my gosh.
And like being able to have background noise, but now I can't anymore. So it's your writing ritual really does evolve. Yeah. So new writers out there, if you're freaking out because your ritual doesn't work anymore, it's not your fault. Life changes. And it happens.
Life changes, you change, and try something new and see if it works for you.
Yeah. And I know when I finally get that writing idea, like that idea where I'm like, oh, this isn't going away, like I can develop this, I tend to like jot things down, and I kind of go back to that fast pace of just writing, trying to get it out, and then, work on developing it further. What is the way you work through an idea that you think you might want to turn into a book or a story?
So for the Bristol Scholar, I actually had a dream, and just kind of to give a little bit of context, the Bristol Scholar is about a young woman. She, in Victorian era, she's upper class and wants more for herself than to just get married, make babies, et cetera, et cetera. So she pursues an education for herself. And I had a dream that was the only thing in the dream really that I remembered was that it was an affair between a professor and a student way back, historically. And I was like, I have to write this. Like, I want to read this book. Like, it sounds awesome. And I knew I had to write it. So then I started kind of just jotting down different ideas, and right around that time was when I think I'd only written, I don't know, maybe like 1,000 words or so when I took a novel writing course, and they just it's funny how they really coincided. And I was able to develop that further in that instance because we had to write every week and present our writing to the class and to the teacher. And through that, like, I had a sense of where my story was going. And because I wanted to push beyond that, and I think the course was 8 or 10 weeks or something like that, I had a good chunk of my novel written. And then I had a smaller group of individuals from that class that wanted to keep going. And so we kept going, and it just was the encouragement and push that I needed to really, get out that first draft. And I worked one-on-one with the teacher of the course to get even more done. And with my first book, that's what allowed me to develop that writing idea that I loved the idea of the book, and that gave me the push that I needed, the writing groups, and the one-on-one was just perfect. I'm not planning to do that with my second novel. So, I mean, like, I have the ideas for this novel, and I do have some people that definitely will read and give me feedback, but there's not as much of a like deadline in the same sense, except that I want to get out the second book for my readers, of course.
Yeah.
My first book ends on a bit of a cliffhanger. So, I feel I don't want to say pressure, because I don't want to pressure myself because I
Yeah.
think that just ends up being bad. But
Yes.
like with the writing groups, that was good. That was good pressure and structured and everything. But yeah, so with this novel, I mean, I know it has to be written. I know that there's so much more of my character's story that needs to be told and resolved from the first book. And so, yeah, developing that further right now for me is trying to sit down a little bit each day and just get a sense of where my story is going, let my characters speak for themselves, let them discover what they need to discover. And I think letting it breathe too has been helpful. Like I said, I'm doing this 90-day novel book. I'm on day 10. I think I started it like in November. So I'm not doing it every day.
Yeah.
I wish I could. And the recommendation is to do it, for 2 hours every day. And I just can't. I can't do that much time, unfortunately.
Yeah. That's not really feasible.
No,
I actually had this discussion with another writer that sometimes writing every day is just not sustainable or just
no.
doesn't work with your schedule.
Exactly. And so I have to have grace for myself in that. And I do have grace. I mean, yesterday I sat down and wrote for the first time in a while, and it felt good, but I also was like, oh, why haven't I done this in so long? And you have to give yourself grace. Life happens, there's busy seasons, and I'm hopeful that I can carve out a little more time to write more frequently because I do love it. I love to write, and I really want that to be more so my motivation. Of course, I want to get it out for my readers, but I want to write because I want to write the story, and I think that it will be beautiful and an excellent addition to the duology.
And I think that's the most important thing to keep in mind, or the goal when you are working on a novel is writing because you want to do it.
Mhm.
If you are writing and you have to force yourself and it's not fun, or you're not having a good time, or you
Yeah.
don't like it, then why are you doing? It's that balance of having to keep yourself accountable,
Hmm.
which is difficult, and enjoy what you're doing, and
Yeah.
giving yourself the grace
Yep.
to take a moment and step back.
Yep.
I had to do a lot of work on that because for the longest time, like you said, life would just happen
Hmm.
and I would get so caught up that I wouldn't write
Yeah.
and I would just be missing it. And even though it's my job now, again, shout out to my therapist. She was saying that you're still operating in kind of reaction mode from back in the day, and you are still thinking, if I put this down, I'm not going to get back to it because it was that way for so long. But that's not the case anymore. You will get back to
Yeah.
it. And if you're not having fun, then don't force yourself. Like, why are you going to do something that doesn't make you happy?
Yeah,
Like, why are you going to do something that you don't enjoy on some level?
for sure. Yep. I agree completely.
And since this is a writing advice podcast, I like to ask, what is the best or worst piece of writing advice you've ever received?
So my mentor that taught the course that I originally took, and then he helped me with a lot of my later chapters. He told me to write as though no one were ever going to read it, and he told me that specifically in regards to a romantic scene that I was getting ready to write, and I I felt so weird about it because I don't know, it's awkward. I don't It's probably not awkward for everyone, but it felt awkward to write a romantic scene, and it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a sexual scene necessarily, but there's kissing and touching, and I wrote that and I was just like, this is mortifying. People are going to read this, and like, what if my parents read this? But he said, just write it. right? Like nobody
Yeah.
is going to read it because that is going to be that's going to be your best work. When you censor yourself, then you're censoring what needs to happen essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with scenes like that, and some of like there's some darker themes in my novel too that deal with mental health. And I, for those types of scenes, to just write it like no one will ever read it. And I mean, these were like some pretty sensitive scenes about things that, like some trauma that I experienced in my past, and some, mental health issues that I had experienced, and that, not everybody knew about me. And so for even that, just to write it, nobody's going to read it, just
Mm-hmm.
write it. And when I got feedback from my mentor on that, it was so positive. And he said that it was so raw and real and vulnerable, and that it would resonate so well with people. And it was the encouragement that I needed to just keep writing vulnerably and honestly, and like no one would read it. So that's the best piece of writing advice, and I hold to that, and will keep doing that with this next novel.
Yeah, that is a great piece of advice because you are more vulnerable that way.
Yeah.
You are more in tune with yourself
Mm-hmm.
because you're writing for yourself and you're like, I'm going to be the only one to read this.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have to lie to myself. I don't have to hold back. Like, I know what I want this story to be like, and I know what I want this story to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like when you become too focused on, oh God, people are going to read this,
Mm-hmm.
it can really scare you off. And it can, at least for me, in the beginning, it would really shut me down. Like, after I released my first novel, I didn't release another novel for a really long time. And mostly because the indie publishing world was not as big as it is today.
Yeah.
But I just was very nervous and embarrassed for people to read my spicy romance novel.
Yeah.
And when I did release Slip of the Hand, which was my second book, I did a really quiet release because of that same thing, because
Yeah.
I was so concerned. But when I decided to really be a full-time indie author, or at least pursue it, I had to kind of shake that off.
Yeah.
And just force myself to just relaunch it the way it is. Like, not be so embarrassed. I think it was more embarrassment about my family reading it
Yeah, for sure.
than strangers. It's actually easier for strangers to read it.
Mm-hmm. It is.
And my mom was like, I'm gonna read it. And I was like, ah, shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my dad read it, my mom read it, my I think my two of my sisters have read it. Like a lot of my family has read it. And honestly, they're so supportive. But like, I mean, I'm not gonna talk about some of those scenes with them.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to draw a hard line.
Oh yeah.
My mom was praising the book, and it was very sweet. And then she was like, "Oh, and then James," and I was like, "Nope, that's where we're gonna cut. We're gonna cut, and you're
Stop.
gonna take that conversation to your coworkers and
Yeah.
your girlfriends,
Yeah.
and you're not gonna have it with me."
Exactly.
And thank you for the support. We are done.
Yeah. Exactly.
And we kind of covered this already, but what advice would you give to new indie authors who are just starting out?
I would say go for it. Push yourself. If it's something that you really want, fight for it. I mean, it may take time. It depends on your life, but I would say just keep pushing for it. And for indie authors, if you're yeah, like I mean, if you're an indie author, you're probably planning to self-publish. Get a really good editor, get a really good proofreader. I know that there are a lot of stigmas around indie publishing, and unfortunately, a lot of that comes from very true things. So, for example, just a poorly edited book, or a not, a book that's not very well developed. And you need to invest the money to really making it the best product that it can be. So that means getting a developmental editor. It means getting an excellent editor. It means reading it over and over and over again and trying to eliminate as many errors as possible, as many contradictions as possible,
Hmm.
because you want your work to be taken seriously. And I think that that's something that's hard, like with the indie world, is that, you're not published by one of the big five, and you're not with, a publishing house. You're doing it all yourself, and it is a lot. Like, I mean, I didn't really know what I was doing. I had a good friend that helped me through a lot of it, but I did know that I didn't want my book to be looked at like, oh, this is indie published, or oh, this was self-published. I didn't want it to look like that, to read like that, to sound like that in any way, shape, or form, because I didn't want anyone to dismiss me because of that. So, I forked out the money to get, and a good book designer as well. I forked out the money to get it, to make sure it was done really well. And yeah, I think there's probably still a couple of errors in it. I think that any published book, whether indie published or not, does. But it was also the best product that I could have put out there. And I would say that if you have a great story, which hopefully you do, give it what it deserves in terms of a book cover, hire a professional. Please don't do AI, because people can tell. And honestly, that's one of the biggest things that really puts me off is
Yes.
when I see a cover that's done by AI, it immediately makes me question not just the quality of the writing, but
Hmm.
was this also written by AI?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so like things like that, and just really push to have your product be and look successful. So, and one of the ways that I did that is I created my own publishing company. So in my books, my publishing company is Dutch Garden Press. It actually has like a publisher logo with it. So my book, yeah, it's indie published by myself, but it just gives it that extra quality of professionalism. And it's interesting because sometimes when I get a book, like I've gotten some free books during, like, I don't know, stuff your Kindle events or stuff or something like that. And I every once in a while, like I kind of look at the copyright and I'm like, I wonder if this is self-published or not. And if there's the absence of a a publisher, then you do know right away. And maybe I shouldn't do that, because I shouldn't judge it based off of that. But I think that it gives your book an extra degree of professionalism, rather than just kind of saying it's self-published. And yeah, and I mean, even with books, I don't just immediately, like, for me personally, if I'm reading a book and I see it's independently published, I don't dismiss it right away. I do give it a chance. But in a lot of indie books that I've read, the quality is not there, and you can tell that it didn't get enough read throughs, by the author, or it didn't have a great editor. It wasn't
Hmm.
proofread well. Like, those kinds
Yeah.
of things end up being very jarring for a reader. Like, for me, I mean, I am a perfectionist, so I probably notice it way more than other people do. But it's very jarring. And even if you have a great story, like I read through an entire novel recently of someone's, and I think it was someone on Book Sirens that I had started reading one of her books, and I just had so many issues with the editing that I had written. I just couldn't finish it.
Yeah.
And the author actually messaged me after and said, "Hey, I noticed that you didn't," and I think there was something else about just the story that didn't really appeal to me, but she reached out and said, "Hey, I noticed you didn't finish this book. Wondered if you'd be interested in reading one of my other books." And so I did, and I read it all the way through. And she had such a fantastic story. And it was set during Roman, not medieval, but before that, like Roman,
Mhm.
I don't even know how to describe the era I'm talking about. But I just thought she had a really great original idea for a story, but it was still there were a lot of errors. And I messaged her after. I said, you have a great book. You've got a great story. You've got great characters. They're compelling. I'm interested in it. But I think your book deserves more than this. I think
Yeah.
that you should get this professionally edited again and republish it. So this is one she'd already published. And so for indie authors, I know this is I'm giving a lot of advice. I didn't mean to. If you believe in your story, give it the professionalism that it deserves so that it can get the recognition that it deserves.
Yes. And it's difficult. It costs money,
Yeah.
and most indie authors don't have that money.
Yeah.
But I have found a lot of people who are willing to do trades,
Yeah.
like trading editing for beta reading or,
Mm.
something of that nature.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
And so connecting with other authors is a way to get that done. Also, just try not to rush it. I feel like we were talking about before, the pressure of wanting to get the story out there
Mm-hmm.
sometimes overrides the perfectionism. Maybe not perfectionism, but sometimes overrides the feeling we will have of continually editing or reading through it again.
Right.
Like, oh, I read through it a couple times, it's fine. And the reason I say that is because I did
Mm.
that with both of my books.
Okay.
Like, I am very aware that I was like, okay, I've read this enough because I had written them years prior to
Right. Yes.
publishing.
Yes.
And I know they aren't as polished as they could be,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I'm really taking my time with this book because I really believe in this story and I want it to be the best version
Yeah.
of that story.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just gotta slow down and take your time, and as much as editing sucks, you will feel much better knowing your story is exactly the way you want it to be and is presented how you want it to be presented.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, with my novel, honestly, my husband was like, "You're reading through it again?" Just because, like, I was like, "Yes,
I
I
have
don't
to,
know.
yes!
I might have missed something." And I just have to keep, like, I read it so many times. I read it, on my computer, and then I got a proof copy, which I wrote all in the proof copies and put all kinds of sticky notes in it, to make those edits, because you see things differently when it's printed than you do when it's on
Yes.
your computer. And I know some people, like, they'll print out their entire like first draft, which is great. Like, if that works for you. I didn't really feel like doing all of that. I didn't actually proof on paper until I got a proof copy of my book. But yeah, I think, yeah, like we said, I think if you think your novel is, yeah, your novel, if you have a great story, you believe in your story, give it what it deserves. And I love the idea of trading, beta reading for editing services. Like, that's a great idea. And I found some great beta readers on Goodreads. And I think I had two beta readers that were free. They were kind of new to the gig, and so they offered their services for free. And I had two that I paid, but it wasn't outrageously expensive, like nowhere near what an editor would cost. And you get that early feedback on your novel, which is great. And Yeah. So if you're, if you're in that stage where you're ready for some, some early readers, do check out Goodreads. Like in some other forums, you can post requesting free beta readers. You can go on different ones that, where there are beta readers saying offering free beta reading services. And then there are also paid categories as well. So I found that very helpful. And actually, I might have had 5 that I was able to get because you want as many perspectives as you can get. I mean,
yes.
So I found that to be a great place, and I'll do that again probably. I might even ask the same ones because they'd be familiar with the first one. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly well said. And thank you, Kate, so much for joining me today. Where can people find you online?
Okay, so I am on Instagram. That's my primary avenue. Writer Kate Summers is my handle. KateSomers. And so I'm on Instagram. My website is katesummers.com. I'm on Facebook too. And it's really just everything I post on Instagram just also goes on Facebook. So Instagram is my primary go-to. I'm on Threads, but I've never used Threads. So speaking of like advice for of indie writers is just like master one thing first if you're new to social media, which I very much was. So, and I haven't mastered Instagram. So I only do Instagram, and maybe one day when I've got a stellar routine and I feel awesome, maybe I'll do TikTok. But yeah, I'm not on TikTok. So not yet.
Yeah, I know. There's so many.
There's so many. I know. And then my book's on Amazon, The Bristol Scholar. Yeah, it's available Kindle, paperback, and I'm hopeful that I might release an audio book this year. Who knows?
Well, I will put all the links in the description so people can find you. This is a reminder that I do have a Patreon. Patrons receive episodes up to 2 days earlier than the general public. There are exclusive blogs and podcast episodes that are only found on Patreon. You'll also receive discounts on writing services, behind-the-scenes tidbits for Battle Cry, including access to our blooper reel, access to my Discord server, and shout-outs in future podcast episodes. So head over to patreon.com/Leani M. Lopez or check out the link in the description. Thank you again, Kate, for joining us, and thank you to everyone who listened, and as always, happy writing.